Welcome to the Health Coach Nation podcast. My name is Hailey Rowe, and I'm a sales and marketing coach and LinkedIn lead generation service provider. I work with health, life, and mindset coaches and online service-based business owners to help them get more sales, shift their time to the client-generating activities instead of just the busy work, and overcome that social media overwhelm. Let's get into the show. If you've been working at your coaching business for a while, you might have found out by now that it's not as easy as you thought to get clients. If that is you, I want to invite you to check out my free workshop sharing how to go from crickets to clients, creating a freebie funnel formula. So in the series, I share with you how to make a freebie that people actually want, that they actually opt into, so that you can grow your email list, so that you always have an audience to share your offers with. And you always have an audience where they are being nurtured by you, they're moving through the sales cycle, and you're not stuck every time you have a launch feeling like you have zero eyeballs on your content. So if that has been you, if you've been stuck in that and you know you need a bigger audience, you know you need to nurture your audience, go to haileyrowe.com/live event, all one word, to get the free series and get started. Today I wanted to share with you something that I see a lot of entrepreneurs doing that causes their business to become stagnant, not grow, causes them to later regret certain decisions. And I've done this myself many times. This is a human error, and it is having to do with how you make your decisions. And one of the things that I see a lot is making decisions based on one of the following things: what you feel like doing based on your goals, what you so basing your decision on emotions, or basing your decision on not true data, just an assumption you had from something that happened that's not a real truth, or just basing your decisions on kind of like what's in it for me energy instead of what's in it for your audience energy. So let's dig into this for a second and talk about it. So the first thing is, in your business, you're going to have goals, right? You're going to want to get a certain number of clients. You're going to want to make a certain amount of money, I'm assuming. You're going to want to, of course, make an impact and serve who it is that you want to serve. But what I see sometimes happen is you let the number of clients goal or money goal cause you to start acting really frantic and wanting to rush your audience. Meaning, you start thinking, well, I need to make X number of dollars this month, and so I am going to raise my prices. I'm going to do a launch. But I need everyone signed up by tomorrow, and you're not able to accurately plan for things and nurture your audience and go through the phases that are required for somebody to want to buy from you. So you end up actually kind of sabotaging your results because you're just like, well, I need this, so I need everybody to catch up with me, and I'm just going to make this irrational, fast, rushed decision to do X, Y, Z, and it's not based on, okay, should we really raise our prices? Does that make sense right now? Should we really do this launch? Have you planned, do you have a big enough email list? Should we build that first? Things like that. So you kind of miss steps because you decide that you have a big goal and you need everyone else to conform to it. And that's not how running a business works. You usually have, if you really think about a company, you have departments, you have people who plan launches, you have, client delivery, you have a bunch of parts, and in the parts, you plan, you evaluate, you set goals, you set targets, but it's not based on you, and what you want and need right this second, like personal money goals. It's based on what's best for the company, what's best for your audience, that kind of thing, right? And I had a client tell me recently, you are so consistent, because she's been one of my clients for a long time. Actually, we worked together back in 2020. Then she had a couple of years where she was just growing and doing her thing. And we're working together again because she wants to keep growing and scaling now. And one of the things she told me was even throughout these years, you've just been so consistent. You have your podcasts, you do your things, you're not always changing your message. And the reason why that is in my opinion, is because I don't just make fast decisions in my business for my own needs. I'm really always taking in feedback from my audience. I am making decisions based on what has worked in the past and doing more of that. I'm trying to refine it and make it better each time instead of doing a bunch of random herky-jerky things. And it has allowed me to be very consistent, be around for a long time, and not really have to make tons of drastic changes. It's a very sustainable, what I do for marketing has been the same for the most part for many, many years. And of course, that doesn't mean that I'm closed off to innovating and having to make changes when I need to, but it's like I've chosen. I know LinkedIn's one of my platforms. I know I have certain collab partners I like to collaborate with. I know I do the podcast twice a week, every week, whether I feel like it or not. I know that I post, a decent amount, but not anything crazy. It's very sustainable. And so it all compounds and adds up. And it has allowed me to not have to think oh my gosh, I need clients tomorrow. And so I gotta do some random crazy thing and make very fast emotional decisions. Because when you make decisions in emotions instead of actually hearing feedback, making them based on, the goals of the business and what's going to serve the audience the most, that's where usually you make poor decisions when we're in an emotional state. If you think about people who trade stocks and bonds and all that kind of stuff, it's an emotional game. And it's about the people who can hold on to their stock and not sell it super quickly just because the market's going crazy and they're freaking out. That's when you lose money, right? So usually if you're patient enough, if you're logical enough, if you're practical enough, and if you say, how can I lowest hanging fruit, do more of what's working and what can I do better before I make these crazy drastic emotional choices. And also the thing is, you have to remember that if you want your business to grow, it really comes down to how much value you're putting out. So whenever you're making decisions, you want it to be based on how can I give more value? How can I serve more? How can I think about my audience more? How can I be in their heads more? And you want it to actually be about them and not always about you, which is also why some people do best in their business when they have, they don't just jump into it full time before making an income that's stable. When they actually ease into their business, meaning they don't quit their job right away because they're not depending on their business financially. So it gives them that opportunity to make decisions based on what's best for the audience, what's best for the business, and grow it in a real way instead of rushing the business to perform for it and give to it and having this weird energy in their business. That's where it becomes a problem. So if you are struggling with making herky-jerky decisions based on what you want for the business and, you run your business based on emotions, don't get me wrong. There are times when going with the flow and going with your emotions can help your business. And I'm going to give you an example of that. And then there's times where you definitely should not. And so one of the times when you should use your emotions in your business is when you're making content, for example. Let's say you get really inspired, you have a really inspired moment, and you want to share something on social media and you're really excited about it. That's a time where it's a good idea to use that emotion and bring it to social media and share with your audience. When it's not a good time is when you are like, I'm desperate to make X dollars or book X clients, and so therefore, I need to insert random choice that feels very rushed and, jump around and not refine your strategy and stay with what is starting to work for you or can work for you when you're just patient. And that's when it doesn't work, right? Because then you're always starting something new. And we all know what happens when you start something new. You're not as good at it. You don't have the reps. You don't have the consistency. You don't have the volume. And you're starting from scratch again. So it's to me, it's how much can we ride a wave that you're on the deepest we can before jumping to a new I guess this is a weird analogy, but like jumping on a new surfboard and learning that new way of surfing in a different body of water. Okay. That was a terrible analogy, but that's what my brain came up with right now. So if you're struggling because you don't know how to make logical decisions in your business, meaning you just don't know what to expect, like this is a new territory for you, you don't know what's the order, what are the stats that you should expect, how long should you stick with something before you say, is this something I should refine or tweak, or just should I start a new strategy? These are the types of things I coach on with clients every day. And a lot of my clients say like, it is so eye-opening and refreshing because like they've never been an entrepreneur before. And so they are just used to being told by a boss what to do, what their responsibilities are, and not like stepping into this unknown world is very scary for them. And so having a guide, having somebody who's done it before, having somebody who can say, here's probably what to expect from XYZ, here's the steps, here's the do's and don'ts, best practices I recommend. Here's when we stay patient, and here's where we do change course because it's not working. That is what I help with. And if you're somebody listening and you're like thinking, here are signs usually that you are maybe making emotional decisions. You're always changing your niche. You're always changing up your pricing. You're always jumping around from platform to platform instead of picking a few to stay consistent with. You find yourself having a lot of emotional roller coaster moments in your business. I think it's just really important to not count on your business to emotionally regulate you. I think you need to come to your business stable and ready to go, and use your business as a tool to serve and make an impact, and focus on that, and then the money and the results will come, instead of needing your business to provide fulfillment for you and give you certain emotions. And if it doesn't, you're mad at it, you're jumping around, you're acting sporadic, that kind of thing. All right. So I hope you have a great day. If you do want to book a call with me, you can book a free client attraction consult at HaileyRowe.com. And we can talk about what your goals are, how to break them down, how to achieve them, and use my Fastway framework to do so, as well as my customized coaching. And I'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much for listening to this podcast. And if it's really helpful for you, I'd really appreciate if you share it and or leave a written podcast review. This tells the podcast sites that our show is useful, and it will be promoted to more people that way. Thanks again.